There are an estimated 250 residential parks in Western Australia, with up to 20,000 tenants. Residential park law is set to be reviewed, but first there's going to be a consultation. Penny Lipscomb is the Director of Policy and Legislation at Consumer Protection. So Penny, what are park laws and why do they exist?
Well, let me set the scene first. There are a number of arrangements for people who choose to live in residential parks. For some people, they just rent like anybody in the community. For others, they own either a caravan or a park home, such as the ones you see around here. The Residential Parks Long Stay Tenants Act was put into place to govern the tenancy arrangements between people who choose to live in residential parks rather than just stay there for holidays and the park home operators.
What's classed as long stay, and can you give us the scope of different type of rental arrangements?
Certainly I can. With caravan parks, there are parks that are what's called mixed-use caravan parks, where they cater for holiday makers and people who choose to make their homes.
So why is this review being carried out?
When the Act was introduced, it has a requirement that it was reviewed after 5 years. It's important to find out whether the Act is still relevant or whether we need to make any modifications. Our intent is to make sure that the Act is fair for people who live in residential parks and for the people who operate those parks.
What are the concerns being raised?
Well, there are a variety of concerns being raised. One of the ones coming up is security of tenure. Residents who own a caravan or a park home on site want a reasonable lease. They want that security, and in the worst case, in case a park operator becomes insolvent. We're interested from hearing from people what they think a reasonable minimum term lease should be.
So can you tell us more about the difficulties residents face when parks are closed down or sold?
Well, you see, it's not easy to pack up. You have to find another place where you can move your home to. Then you have to arrange for it to be moved and get the truck and the crane. And you also have the expense that involves. So it takes time and it takes money.
So what if a long-term tenant wants to move or sell their home?
The difference is that when you buy into a residential park, while you'll own the home, you won't buy the land on which it's situated. And it's important that potential buyers know this. It's also important that operators be involved to some extent in the sale so that people can be made aware of the conditions in the park. And so that raises the question, to what extent should operators be involved in the sale and what are reasonable charges for them for their assistance in that?
This comprehensive discussion paper has now been released, and Consumer Protection encourage all interested parties in voicing their opinions during its review. Julia Lynch is the president of the Park Home Owners Association. Julia, one part of the consultation asks about park liaison committees. What are the functions of these committees?
The park liaison committees were designed to facilitate a forum for residents and park owners to get together and talk about issues within the park and to come to some resolution between the two sides as to how they could resolve these issues.
So how many people are on these committees, and can you give me an example of some issues that you tackle?
It can be up to 6 residents, maybe more in some parks, but generally it's around 6, and 1 or 2 of the management who sit on those committees. One issue might be where you've got trees growing up by the side of a resident's house, and the roots are perhaps starting to come under the house, or they're causing concern to the residents. So they'll go to the Park Liaison Committee and let them know that this is what's happening, and then that's an issue that the committee would bring up with the managers of the park to work out some way of resolving the issue.
This consultation is not just for tenants. Park operators and owners are encouraged to participate too. The key items that Consumer Protection want to hear about are security of tenure, compensation, disclosure, rent variation, fees and charges, sale of homes on site, dispute resolution, park liaison committees, maintenance capital replacement, park owner insolvency, damage to property and violent behaviour, future regulation of lifestyle villages. Anyone who wants to make a submission should do so by the closing date, 30th November 2012. Consultation discussion paper, statutory review of the Residential Parks Long Stay Tenants Act 2006. Log on to www.commerce.wa.gov.au/consultations, email consultations@commerce.wa.gov.au or call 1300 30 4054.